So I'm happy to introduce Danuta. She is an experienced facilitator with OTS Connects, and she's used technology in the classrooms for the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic School Board, and she's a VP in a very big school that has access to a variety of devices and many teachers who integrate technology really effectively. She's passionate about the way technology enhances learning, and as she was when she was a teacher and also a consultant. We're really happy that Danuta has the opportunity to connect with all of you from so many people from all over Ontario, and I can guarantee that tonight you'll learn so much as I did going through her presentation, and you'll be excited to go back and work with your little ones in the class and bring some of these strategies to them. So I'm going to now hand it over to Danuta.
Thank you, Molly. Welcome, everyone. I am saying hello from snow-covered Barrie. And on the one hand, I'm disappointed because it is spring. However, seeing students frolicking in the snow, so thrilled with the sunshine, I was rethinking and actually appreciated a little bit of the snow that covered. I'm not sure how many of you had snow, but it was quite unexpected. So I would like to thank you for being with us tonight, and I promise you that I will do my best to make this session worth your while. So now that you know a little bit about me, I would like to see who is here. So if you could use one of the tools, the whiteboard tools, and doesn't matter which one, it could be a check mark, just to put it beside your role. And if you are F, other, if you could kindly maybe type it on the whiteboard as to what your role is. Okay, a lot of grade 1, 2 teachers. Okay. Don't see any kindergarten teachers. Not yet. Maybe some people will be joining us in a few minutes. Special education, 3, 4. And I'm pretty confident that the grade 3, 4 teacher will also walk away with some practical ideas, even though I said it was geared towards K-2. Okay. All right, thank you so much. We'll move on. If you attended any of my previous webinars, you know that my success criteria, there's usually 2. One is I want to make sure that the ideas are practical, so you will use at least one with your students this week, and that you will share one or more ideas with one of your colleagues. So that's what my hope is, and I'm sure yours also. You want to make sure that you can use something maybe even tomorrow. So what I have planned for tonight, we are going to start with the online writing and publishing tool. We are going to move on to some reading resources, and I'm going to ask you after that section to share your favorite website. I recognize that I'm sure each of you has a website that you can we can learn from each other. So if you could think about that while we are going through, and just think for a moment which website of many you probably have in your head you would like to share with others at that point. I would appreciate it. And then we are going to move to science. And if we have time, I realize that I usually overplan. So IRA stands for Indoor Research Activities, and I may be able to touch on a couple of ideas, but it all depends on the time. Because I realize you have set aside this time to participate in this session, and then you will go back to the busyness, Molly and I would do our best to provide you with an opportunity to actually get a taste of the majority of these resources. So I will not just be talking at you. Molly will be pasting, either pasting the links for you to go and check, or doing a web tour, and we'll be just watching something together on the screen. So, as I said, we promise that it will be a hands-on session and not just listen to someone's session. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. I will be pausing once in a while to just make sure that I watch the chat, and I know Mali will also assist me. All right, so we are going to move to the first idea. This is an online writing and publishing tool. When I evaluate apps, one of the criteria I use is, do I need a tutorial? Or do I need a guide? Do I need a step-by-step manual to be able to use it? And if I don't, if it's intuitive, then I give it thumbs up. So this is one of those tools that I think any student from, I would say, K to, I would say even all the grades past junior would be able to use. I will let you have a look at it. As you could see here, when you go to the website, before you even set up an account, you will be able to just enter your name. You don't even have to enter your real name, and then make a book to just, again, as I said, get a taste of how it works. Just to give you an idea of what I meant by intuitive. As you can see, your canvas opens with the tools on the left. At the bottom, you've got your pages, and then the page that has a yellow border is the one that is active and that you are placing various props, backgrounds, text, and elements on. At the top, there is a very brief tutorial. It's basically an overview, which you probably don't even need to watch, but you can if you want. And then just the save and close. Of course, this applies once you have an account. So that's why I have selected this tool, because of the simplicity and because of the opportunity for students to share their work beyond the classroom walls. I know Mali is big on collaboration as part of iEarn, and I truly believe that the quality of students' work improves when they know it's not just the teacher that will read the poem or the short story, and not just even the parents. We can send a link to family that is thousands of miles away. Parents can share the link with their friends and be proud of the accomplishment of their children. So this is one of those tools that allows the students, mostly you, because the students are under 13, share the finished product with a wider audience. I will talk more about that in a moment. What I would like you to do, if you don't mind, again, as I said, we'll give you a little bit of a time, not much, but just enough to go there. So Mali will paste the link in the chat box, or you can just simply type Story Jumper. Hopefully it will give you this particular screen where you enter whatever. As I said, it doesn't have to be the real name. And then just click Make Book. You can also choose to watch the tutorial at the top if you'd rather just have an overview than have hands-on. And we'll set a timer for, say, Mali, 2 minutes, and we'll have you back here in 2. Okay, so let's go and explore Story Jumper. Thank you. I'll just wait until when we have everyone back. I realize that you probably just got into it, and we are bringing you back. And I apologize for that. As I said, if this is the idea you would like to use with your students tomorrow or sometime this week, you will probably have an opportunity to explore it in more detail. So what I wanted to mention is you notice on the left, you've got props, scenes, and photos. In terms of photos, what I know the teachers that I have worked with, they have scanned their students' pictures. So they can do pictures by hand, and you can scan it. I think most copiers these days have the email to yourself feature, and it's very easy to just put multiple pages and scan them to yourself. On the Story Jumper. That is a good question. I haven't tried to use it. There is a page with frequently asked question, and I haven't myself changed the language, so I don't want to say yes or no. I'm afraid I'm going to have to just let you explore it. They are also very quick responding. There is a contact us page. I contacted them with an issue, and they responded very quickly, even though it's a free tool. So I think they make money on the books teachers order, so they can print books for you and send you a printed version. So they are counting on that. So far it is free. So I would, if you can't figure it out, I would suggest perhaps contacting the company, and they will be able to help you out. So as I said, the photos could be coming from scanned pictures. They can also be coming from the web, and I will talk about this in a moment. So when you create an account, I just wanted to show you a couple of screens you are going to get. This could be a little bit confusing. The class will be open for an hour and a half. Anytime you want to reopen the class, click Start. And I will, again, address this in a moment when I get to a different screen. But when you create your account, it will encourage you to create a book, again, to just get your feet wet and to get familiar with the tools. But I think you will agree with me that it's so intuitive that it will probably be easy to use. Again, I don't know if we have any kindergarten teachers right now. We didn't when we asked about your role. What I am suggesting, obviously kindergarten teachers will not be able to read. They will be able to recognize the symbols of text, photos, props, or scenes. Or better yet, I always encourage collaboration. I'm sure many of your schools have so-called either reading buddies or learning buddies, and once a week, once all the students come and work, maybe just read. It could be expanded to actually doing a project together, and that's a great leadership opportunity for students. So once you create an account, I'll move to the next screen. So this is where you are prompted to create a class. You are creating a temporary password for your students, so each student will have to log in with this password, and then they will be prompted to change it. In terms of changing the password, again, I'll talk about it in a moment, but basically what I would suggest is either create a format. So you're going to say all of you will be maybe your date of birth, or your you will be a particular animal. You can record their passwords, but you also have an opportunity to reset it as a teacher. So even if they forget, you can reset the password. This is where you have the also an option to allow searching photos. Again, it's up to you. Most school boards have pretty good filtering system in terms of pictures. However, I have come across some inappropriate ones. So it's, again, up to you whether or not you want to allow. It just expands their opportunity. So if they are looking for background, it will certainly be, they will have more opportunities when they can search photos. Again, you're putting in number of students, and then you don't have to put their last name. You can just put first letter of the last name, and then you have to decide on the username. This is a little tricky because you're deciding on it, and if it's taken already in the whole database of Story Jumper, the system will just tell you that it's already taken. So my suggestion is the best way is probably a school acronym. So 3 letters of your school. If your school, most schools have used acronyms. School acronym followed by the first name, and maybe a number or 2 numbers. You'll figure out which system works and just kind of follow that format, just changing the students' first names. Now the age is important, and again I will talk about it in a moment. So I'll move on to the next screen. As I said, you can reset the password, and it just gives you the message that it is a temporary one, and they will be asked to pick their own. This is also a good opportunity to teach students about online behavior. As we know, they will be spending their life probably with different logins and passwords. And this is just another opportunity to let them know, you know what, you're probably going to be dealing with what we are dealing with, a lot of different passwords. So do you have the agenda? Can you write it down in your agenda? If your school is on Google Apps for Education, this is where our students are recording their logins, and after a while they don't need to refer to their agenda, they remember. But luckily you can reset if they forget. This is where the duration comes in, and they are saying that it's a good idea to put a duration. So let's say you have an hour block, so put a duration for an hour, especially if you have shared computers, which probably most of us have. We're not lucky to have a set of our own in the classroom. So if you put that 1 hour in, other students can notice. Sometimes it happens with Google Apps. I don't know if it happens to your students, but often they forget to log out, and then somebody else is able to access somebody's work. So this is something that you may want to keep in mind. And then moving on, another important step is when a student tries to log in and you as a teacher didn't click start, they will not be able to do it. And I think it prevents them from accessing this website at home, because if you want to access at home, this is where I'm trying to find the page over here. This is where you've got this column, allows to use Story Jumper at home. You can, if you want. I think to start small, I would just keep it, just use in class. However, if you want to publish, if students want to publish and have their own link to their book when they are done, or if you would like them to get caught up at home, I personally would just start using it at home, because you would really need to have a parent's email address to be able to request their consent. But again, there is an option like this. I'm just going to go back one more slide, back for a moment. Again, what I appreciate about this is that you can check every book in progress and kind of monitor and see where they are, conference with the students as to what they could improve on, what they need to add, perhaps do some editing or revising. Unfortunately, there is no, and those of you again who are using Google Apps and are used to providing comments, it's not that sophisticated. It doesn't allow you to comment. But again, we are dealing with young students, so it would probably be best to just have a writer's workshop and just conference with the students one-on-one or in a small group. Again, as I said, the great opportunity that this tool provides to publish beyond just the classroom or school walls. So on your dashboard, you have an option to choose a password. So when all the students' books are created, they can all go into your collection, and then you will send information in the newsletter with the password. This is how you can access. So it's again a walled garden for parents specifically to access, and if parents want to share it with their family members, they can. Students have to be 13, or they have to receive a consent from parents if they want to publish with individual links, which I'm going to show you in a moment, where you can find some samples. So this, again, what I really love, even though it is very intuitive as to how to create an account, how to create a student account, you will have this information on one page, step by step. So this is basically a summary of what I just went through, and you will have this link in the resources page that is always provided to you after the webinar. So this is a great place to go to just see what you need to do. And one of the steps is, I believe, step number 3. At some point you will see author's hands-on tutorial. Again, you may choose to go through it. It just basically is an interactive tutorial that you or the students, or if you have learning buddies, they can go through and explore. But I'm confident that students will very quickly know what to do, because I think that you will agree it is quite intuitive. I was talking about downloading from the web. So if the students are creating maybe a book about rural and urban communities, and they want to make a comparison, so one page will be the rural, the other page would be urban. This is a really great website. I highly recommend it. It's Photos for Class. So what's great about this, and this is an opportunity to again touch on the digital citizenship behavior, when you are saying, you know what, yes, the easiest way is to go to Google and just, as we say, Google a picture. And students often just, when we ask them to give credits, especially older ones, they always say they give credit to Google, not realizing, well, Google isn't just a search engine. So, and I think that I don't blame them if we don't teach them that each picture has been taken by someone, belongs to someone. So the great thing about this, when you download, you get the credits underneath. So even though it's Creative Commons, each picture belongs to someone, that person just simply release the rights and let us use their photos. So that's just something that you may want to keep in mind if they are creating something and you want them to maybe search the pictures, the photos for the backgrounds if you don't have them. But there is a quite extensive collection there, so they may want to start with the database within the application. Another great great feature of this resource, and I can't believe it's free, as I said. I hope they make enough money by just through publishing and binding, I guess, and sending printed copies, because you've got examples of leading educators and various ideas, because this is what teachers always look for. Okay, I get it, you know, it's a tool, but what can I use it for? So this particular one says I use it for student poetry anthologies. Again, I think it's a great idea because you just have each student create maybe a page to start with. So I'm thinking now Mother's Day is coming up, so maybe this is something that you would like your students to work on. Each student would create a page. It could be a poem. It could be, you know, you can give them a template of, you know, what I often do with my mom, what I wish I did more, whatever, you know, your sentence stems are, your prompts are. That could be something you can start with. And then the next one is, again, I think we all love Doreen Cronin's series of the Diary of. So she just asks her students to create a book that is, I guess, inspired by the series. And I've looked at the database. I will show you what I mean. And maybe you noticed when you went to Story Jumper that there is also a library of stories published by students. That I have found a Diary of a Snowman. It was quite interesting, but I think it was by an older student because it was a lot of writing and quite rich. I found a diary of a dog, of a cat, so I don't know if this is specifically, but maybe somebody just took this idea and got the students to create their own story. So what I would like you to, again, I think most of you have the books, or they are in probably most of the school libraries. But sometimes I always appreciate an opportunity. If you are lucky, in my school, every teacher has a projector and a screen. Actually, all kindergarten teachers have smartboards, so they also students interact, but that's not why I'm mentioning it. What's great about it is you display those just wonderful pictures on the big screen. You can pause, you can zoom in, you can discuss details, you can talk about features of the text. I know this particular one, I believe this one, all of them have thought bubbles and speech bubbles, and then they have onomatopoeia, like chomp, for example. You can discuss that. Again, yes, you can open the book and show to the class, but those students at the back, sometimes you see them slouching or lying on the carpet because they don't really see as well as the ones who are sitting right in front of your face. So the fact that some of them are available online, so maybe if Mali could if Mali could paste the link to this one. There you go. And if, I don't know if maybe you're doing a web tour. Perfect, thank you.
So if you can put a green check mark when you finish watching, you can actually click on the link in the chat or follow along in the whiteboard.
Hello. Hi, I'm just trying to figure out how to write in the chat room.
Okay, if we could perhaps stop the web tour, and I'll go back to the presentation. All right, thank you. Okay, so again, as I said, you can start here and discuss text features, pictures, why pictures, detailed pictures are important. Like she just, Harry Bliss, he's just amazing with the details of each character. So again, discussing why it's important as an illustrator to be so detailed, especially if the text is not very rich. It's just mostly, you know, a speech bubble here, a thought bubble there, a little bit of text. So in that case, the pictures are so important. And then another example, of course, of Doreen Cronin's Diary of a Fly. Here I'm providing you with two examples. One is the animated version, and that's those of you who are lucky to have subscription to Tumblebooks. Those of you who don't, I was able to find a Tumblebook version, so animated. And then there's also a read-aloud version. So Mali, if you could perhaps, I think we'll just paste the link to the animated version in the chat, so people will just get a taste, just for maybe, we'll set it up for maybe 30 seconds, just at the beginning of the story. So 30 seconds and we'll have you back. Okay, so just wanted to give you an option if, in case you have one copy in the library and it's out, you can use, if you, of course, as I said, if you have a projector. I just sometimes think it's, for some people, it's a major inconvenience to run around, look for a projector, look for an extension cord, then hook everything up. It only makes sense if you have the setup in a classroom ready to go, and hopefully some of you do. So I'll move on, and I think all good teachers know that we don't just say, okay guys, let's go to a Story Jumper and write a story, because we know we are not going to get high caliber work. We have to invest a lot of time in planning. So again, what I appreciate about this application is they have teacher's guide, they have author's guide, and under author's guide they have those planning sheets. They have suggestions, extensive lists, and I mean list, and again the link will be provided to you in the resources of story starters. So those of you who are sitting thinking, what I'm going to write about, I'm sure you can relate. Lots of those students have no idea, so unless you give specific instructions, there is a lot of suggestions. This sheet probably will have to be simplified if you are thinking of young students, unless you have them paired up with learning buddies. So what I mentioned earlier is I mentioned the library. So I'm not sure if you noticed when you went to Story Jumper. What I always do and suggest strongly is that you find a story that, in your opinion, is high quality, kind of a level 3 or 4, and then maybe another one that would be a level 2. One, I don't know if the level 1 would be published, but something that is not up to par. And start with the high one and say, okay guys, do you like the story and why? So deconstructing. Every time we ask students to create, whether it's comic strips or poetry, anything else for that matter, we always start with looking at a sample, if we're lucky to have one, and say, what makes it a good story? Okay, the illustrations are detailed, the storyline, I like the rich language. There's a lot of, we call it, some teachers call it juicy words, those descriptive adjectives. So just basically make a list on chart paper and say, okay, so let's look at the one that perhaps isn't up to par. And again, the same thing. What would you say if you were to give 2 stars and a wish? How would you critique this story? What could they have done better to make it maybe 1 level up? So based on that, knowing that these books in the library are all created by their peers, younger or older, you know, again, we can refer to how many views these books have and then how many stars they receive. That's kind of also an indicator of whether or not the story is of a high quality. So there is something that you may want to look at. I mentioned the Diary of a Snowman. There's also a story called Be Kind to Mother Earth. So that's again knowing that on April 22nd is Earth Day. I'm not sure if you usually celebrate the day in any way, but there is a story in the library. If you do a search for Be Kind to Mother Earth, you will see, again, quite rich language. So I would imagine it probably was created by a little older student. There's also, if I'm talking about Earth Day, sorry, I got for a moment. I'm sure most of you use the Dear Children of the Earth. There is, let me see if I can find that link, because I just came across that recently, and I know that I was looking for it before because I couldn't find the book, and I was able to find a link. 1 second. Let me see. Yes, I've got that. So I'm going to just paste to make sure that Mali can add that. Second here. Okay, so that's the one that will take you to a read aloud of the actual classic Dear Children of the Earth. The other ones are kind of I think more of a remix of the original story. So we move on to another collection. So I'm going to stop for a moment if there are any questions about Story Jumper. So once again, as I said, create your account, create students' accounts, decide on an idea, perhaps look at some books that are already there, start small, start some planning, decide if you need learning buddies, and then of course all the planning would be done on paper, storyboard, and then once they are ready, they can start publishing. So that's the last step of the writing process would be publishing online and then sharing the collection with a password with the family so everyone can see the students' work. Okay, so this one I always pointed out, those of you who have attended maybe my session before, I have selected some of my absolute favorites because, well, for a few reasons. This one, again, is another free collection. One of the arrows on the left points to French. So what I like about this collection is that you can have, for those students who are English second language or English language learners, it's like for them, if they come to school, I remember my son, when he went to school first, I would say a few weeks, he was upset and he just couldn't communicate. He went to kindergarten, he couldn't communicate. Nobody knew what he was talking about. And I can imagine if he had access to books that would allow him to read in his native language and English. He picked up language very quickly, as children do, but nevertheless, all these books, and I will let you go there in a moment, they will have, if you choose another language, they will have all the text both in English, read in English, and in the native or another language. So there's 30 languages, so I'm pretty sure everything is covered. Another thing that I like is the aspect of those icons at the top. So students, again, it's mostly geared towards kindergarten teachers, unless you are, and I'm sure you will agree with me, you're in grade 1 and you've got students who are struggling and are still at kindergarten level. All these icons representing different topics. So you have healthy me, you've got animals, plants, you can recognize family, you can recognize what they are by the picture at the top. So what I'm going to do is, Mali has pasted the link. So again, if we could perhaps have 2 minutes on the timer to have a look, please make sure you choose another language. Whether or not you speak another language, could be French, it could be maybe some of you speak another language and you would like to test it, but make sure you've got both. And under Earth, I believe that under Earth and Sky, there are some books on spring. So if you would like to just check that out, we'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, we are back. Hopefully you had an opportunity to just go and check it out. I just wanted to add that this particular collection works on mobile devices. I know many primary classrooms have access to iPads or any other tablets, so you can set it up as a center. You probably noticed that, or you will notice when I go through a couple of more collections, that I have purposely selected online books with audio. Most of them have audio. I am very big on providing all students with reading opportunities, and I know teachers are struggling in class where some students are well below the level, the reading level, and they just don't know what to do, because one teacher, sometimes you have an EA. This way, if you have your class set up in centers, they can all access and just listen to the stories read aloud. Not to mention that, I think most of you will agree with me, nothing will replace cuddling with a child and reading to and with him or her. But the reality is, many parents will just tell you, even reading recovery parents will say, well, I don't have time because I commute, and by the time I get home, and all the excuses about why they don't read with their children. So at least, sending them maybe one link in your newsletter saying, this is a resource I recommend, you may want to give it a try. Many children spend probably too much on just with a screen of sorts. So if they are spending time with a screen, it's recommended that they listen to a book instead of playing a video game. All right, so I'll move on. This one is just, again, you'll probably recognize many of the titles, many of the covers. So these are books that are available probably in your library. Again, all of them have audio, and they are read along, and they are again, this is, I know that you can read aloud to them, but sometimes, you lose your voice. Sometimes you just want to change from, okay, they always listen to my voice. If you are not lucky to have a librarian who you take your class maybe, and she or he reads aloud, it is recommended that once in a while you've got, they are listening to a book online read often by an actor. So the fluency is there, it's modeled reading, and certainly could be displayed on the screen if if you are lucky to have a projector. So this is this collection. Again, it will be in your resources. I'll just skip some in terms of exploring. There's another page to this one. You can have a look. There's a total of, I believe, 11 or 12 books. This one, I think most of you are familiar with this. It's an absolute favorite of many teachers. So I'm not going to spend too much time. I just wanted to make sure that you, if you have never seen it, I strongly recommend that once you get the links on the resource page, this would probably be one of the first ones you want to visit, and just absolutely, absolutely amazing. Make sure you click more books, and the covers will just be showing up on the screen. Okay, this is another one that I have highlighted before, but again, one of my absolute favorites in terms of nonfiction, for a couple of reasons. I have highlighted those reasons. So it's informational text, you develop their literacy skills, and the stunning photographs. It's just, they are absolutely, well, it is National Geographic after all, so we probably are familiar with, they have top-notch photographers, so that's why their photographs are absolutely stunning. And when you display it on the big screen, is like, I've seen the students just gasp because they were just so shocked to see that, you know, they can see an animal up close. So this is basically geared towards kindergarten and grade 1. So again, if you are not a kindergarten teacher, one of those success criteria, if you could perhaps share it in your school, say, you know what, if you haven't heard about it, I heard about it last night, you really have to go there. So they have revamped it slightly. They have, so before I will give you time to have a look, they have now got a version for Scouts and Voyager. So the Scout is a kindergarten, Voyager is grade 1. They slightly differ. I don't see much of it. Like maybe a little bit simplified for kindergarten. So when you go there, you will see the latest issue. What I also encourage you to do is to go to more issues, because this is where you see all the back issues. After all, it is nonfiction, but it is all about nature, and it doesn't have to be current. So if you want to check out April 2012, because you're thinking there should be something about spring, or maybe March even, go ahead and check and make sure that you go past issues. Like, just keep scrolling under more issues to the very bottom, and you will see all of them. And then check out the story calendar, because it just tells you kind of the themes by month. I think it's a very appreciated piece where you can see what they try to stick to those themes throughout year after year. What I also would like you to check out when you go and look at it, this is where, I'll tell you why I'm sending you to the teachers to the projectable edition. Even though there is audio, as I said, most of the resources I'm highlighting tonight have audio. I don't know if you will agree with me, but I'm not sure if the audio is fluent enough. She seems to be, it's usually a narrator, and she's slow, so she's trying to, you have to click a little speaker and she reads a sentence, but she reads like this, and I feel that, yes, you can do phrased reading, but it has to be phrased and fluent. The students have to be exposed to model really what reading should sound like talking, not slowed. So I'm not sure, again, lovely if you have computers. This does not work on mobile devices, unfortunately, even though it would be lovely to, you know, the screens, iPad screens are lovely. They have an app, but there is an additional cost. All the resources that I'm recommending tonight are free. So, but the projectable edition is fantastic. So I'll just move on to the next, excuse me, next slide. So you get basically a big, big book on the screen. You can zoom in, you can annotate, you can highlight different sections. So if you're talking about features of nonfiction text, not to mention, you know, you display a photograph and get the students to see if you can prompt them for some inquiry type questions. So what are you wondering about when you're looking at this photo? So, and the students are amazing. I was in a kindergarten classroom lately, and I was so surprised by the questions that they were asking. You know, the little brains, little minds, and they were asking such great questions that I didn't even come up with any. I'm thinking, wow. So that's the projectable edition. So Mali has pasted the link, I think, up here. Am I correct, Mali? Or
yes, no, it's the link is
or
there.
are you going to?
Yeah, it's in the chat
Okay,
box.
so if you could, again, if we could set, yeah. So if you could, again, set the timer for, let's say, 2 minutes, have a look at more issues, have a look at, try and go in as a student and see if you agree with me in terms of the reading. Again, better the reading that is there than a student looking just at pictures and not being able to access. So the timer's on, so I will stop talking and I'll let you have a look at it. Yes, I can see that some comments here at the bottom. The reading is very slow. Yes, the but, right? So we can for independent reading, absolutely. So I always say, would I rather have no reading and students just look at pictures, or would I have this slow reading there? So again, if you have 1 or 2 computers in your classroom and you set it up as a center, bookmark it. And I was surprised again how skilled even kindergarten students can be in navigating. We only had to show them some twice, some just once, and show them, you know, here are different books you can access. Go to this color tab, because they can read more issues, the kindergartens can't, but they very quickly find their way around, and they know how to navigate and find. And some of them just listen to the same books over and over. I don't know too many students, too many children who don't like animals. So, and you probably agree with me that the pictures and the photographs are absolutely stunning. Yes, thank you. I'm just looking at the comments and moving on. So that's the tab I mentioned. And again, most of you are familiar, but I thought, in case you aren't, you have iPads in your classroom, 1 or 2. Absolutely download if you can, because it depends whether the apps have been provided by the board. This is a free one, and it's used extensively in my school by teachers from young grades, I would say 1 through 6 even. Not all books have audio, but many of them do. And it is free for educators. The only thing, right now they have a special 2 months free for parents. Basically what they ask for is just that you promote it, $5, I believe, a month subscription. Now it's, as I said, 2 months free, but that's what they are hoping to make money on. And again, in the old days, we were going to library, we were signing out books. Right now, you don't even have to do it. I appreciate the convenience, but I also enjoyed taking my children to the library and just kind of browsing through the shelves, going through the shelves together, picking the books. So I kind of miss those old days, some nostalgia here. But this is a collection again. Everybody's rushed, nobody has time. So if parents want to have a subscription at home, $5 a month is certainly worth it. So again, you will be provided with a link, direct link, if you don't have that, to iTunes, so that you can download it and check it out yourself. So just some screenshots of the books that you would get, and again, a mixture of fiction, non-fiction. And this one is another one of my favorites. I don't know too many students who don't like Howard Wigglebottom. I always recommend it to play one of these books when there's an issue. And sometimes we have students, often after recess, who either nobody would play with me, or I can't get along with anyone, or is sent in, especially to me, to deal with because he was fighting with someone, or as you can see, there's a book about manners, about listening. So this collection, and I will ask Mali to paste it and give you a moment to enjoy one of these books if you haven't seen them before. While you are there, you may want to just check out, when you click a title, there are also some additional resources. I love the songs. Many of them have a very easy tune, and students just like to sing them. And there are also posters that, if you have a color printer, you may choose to print some of them. So just reading chat from Lisa. I use these in class with a lot of behavior and social issues. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, thank you. And here is the link. So if you could, let's set a timer for maybe a minute and just open one of the books and enjoy. All right, I hope that you had an opportunity to check out at least one of these books. So we'll move on. Just a reminder to again think of a website. No big deal if you can come up with any, but I will be asking you, I'll be wrapping up the reading section. I'll be asking you to share your favorite website so that we can learn from each other. Okay, so this one is, I came across it and I was quite excited because it was just so well organized. It was Indianapolis, I believe, Public Library, and it's got, sometimes it's just titles, sometimes it's collections. This one actually has a couple of pages. One of them, you will go there in a moment and you will see that they have, just click on here. So sorry. These are books that don't require a library card, that they have again linked to, so that again you can bookmark it if you have a school computer. And they have two different collections. One, they are saying these books don't work on an iPad. These books work on an iPad and a computer, just so that you don't have to go and realize, oh, it doesn't work on a mobile device. But Mali has already pasted the link for us. So if you could just, again, we're going to set a timer again for 2 minutes just to give you an opportunity to see what a great website it is to just bookmark for your students. If you don't have access to any subscriptions like Tumble Books, this is a great website to bookmark. So let's give it a shot for about 2 minutes. Well, I'm sure you recognized many of the titles. I have noticed that my favorite series, one of my favorites, is Pete the Cat. Is there two of the books, along with many other ones that students would appreciate. So again, what I like about it is for young students, it's the cover. They always guided by the cover when they go to the library. So they just click and they can listen to the book. So yeah, I just had a phone call I had to. Okay, and then the same library, as I said, they have a little bit different link. So Mali will click the link for us. I wanted to draw your attention to one specific resource. On this particular page, you have to scroll down a little, because when you first click, you will see at the top it's library card required. So this is something like Tumble Books, for example. But when you scroll down, you are going to see the section with no library card required. And then you will have those two sections where you've got free books on a computer or iPad, and then down below don't work on the iPad. So I just realized that the screenshot doesn't include the collection that I wanted to draw your attention to, and that is called, so when you go there, on the very left, you are going to see something called Hoosier family, Hoosier of readers. So it looks like they are giving us access to that collection until December. And I was just astounded by how many books with audio are in that collection. Just when you go in, it requires login, and they are listing the login there, but they are listing it as uppercase, and it didn't work for me. So I had to then enter lowercase, and the lowercase worked. So it's read and read lowercase. So I'm going to give you a minute, just 1 minute, just to make sure that I can go through a couple more resources. But there's a couple that you may not be familiar with. Mrs. P is just quite funny. It's a British lady who reads aloud, if you haven't seen her yet. The World Book Day is another worth exploring. The one from Scholastic, if you are a grade 1 teacher and you're looking for some books on community helpers, that's always a popular one. The one from Scholastic has a number of, again, books with audio on different community helpers. So that's, you may want to note when you're doing that particular strand in social studies. But for everyone else, if you would like to explore that one on the top left, and again, the login is read and read, and when you get there, make sure that you click projects. And when you see projects, you will see different options for searching recommended books for various grades. So if you're teaching, if you are a third, perhaps that's something you may want to recommend to some teachers that, again, have students who who need high interest, low vocab type books. All the books have audio. So again, let's set a timer for 2 minutes, and let's have a look at these collections. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you had an opportunity to have a look at that particular resource. I have shared it with the teachers in my school, and they were all appreciative. They said, wow, they didn't realize and what's great about it, the collection works on mobile devices. So again, to use during independent reading, sometimes those students who are struggling, and what I always recommend is to follow the philosophy of education for all. I know a number of you are thirds, and you're probably trying to implement it in your classroom. Instead of singling out students and say, you know what, you may want to use the iPad. Of course, you wouldn't do it explicitly, loudly, but still, you know, if that particular student has their equipment and nobody else is using a computer, nobody else is using a tablet, then yeah, so she's or he's the one that is struggling. If you say, okay, today I'm going to have these 4 students use the iPads, so hopefully you've got your earbuds or your headphones in your pockets or somewhere in the classroom, and let's just go to that collection and select a book, and you've got your 20 minutes independent reading taken care of, and they will not have to pretend that they have a book in front of them and they turn pages. I remember when I was teaching, it was exactly what was happening. In some cases, it was heartbreaking to see those students trying to fit in and take a chapter book. I knew that they couldn't read it, but they were turning pages and pretending that they were. So how painful it must be for 20 minutes to sit and pretend to be reading. Now, luckily, we have other options. So I just, again, changed the slide. This one, if you are to choose one collection, if you haven't tried the Oxford Owl, it's, again, another adorable one. You do have to set up an account, similarly to Story Jumper, and just create a class account. But once you do it, those of you who perhaps used to be or are reading recovery teachers, you will recognize those stories. These are the British ones with Chip as the main character. So I'll move on to, again, some stories on YouTube or Vimeo. This is a collection, and what often happens in my school is either when it's an indoor recess, they play this collection or another one of the collections that I have gathered for you. Well, I don't know too many students who don't like Robert Munsch. This particular one is, I think, a total of 46 minutes, so it's a few stories. Another idea is also some, especially the primary teachers, they are playing because they have a projector. As I said, it's not going to work if you have to run around and borrow a projector every Friday. But on Fridays, during snack time or during lunch, they just play a book for some of the time. And again, great use of time. The students are very quiet. They are exposed to book language once a week, and they like that variety. So that's another idea if you are interested to check it out. So that's again this collection. In that same the same slide, Mali, if you could paste the link of another channel. Like I have a number of channels that I have selected for you to check out. I really like the one called I Love to Read for You. I believe, if I'm correct, that lady changes a book every day. So I don't know how, but she clearly loves to read aloud. She does a really good job at it. And then there's another couple of others, Little Angel Reader channel and I Read Storybooks channel. So they are going to be in on the resources page. But Mali, if you wouldn't mind pasting the one, or you've done it already. It's the I Love to Read for You. So if you could just give it a shot, have a look at what she has there, and maybe we can set a timer for like 30 seconds just to check out one or the other. You can choose which one you want to check out, and we'll come back in 30 seconds. All right, sorry to rush you. Hopefully you will have a moment to check one of them out and maybe bookmark it again on your computer, and on a rainy day or maybe once a week, if you have the setup ready, you can play one of the stories for your students. Okay, we are almost done with the reading section, certainly the biggest. So I'm going to wrap it up with this one. And then I will ask you if you would like to share some of your, it doesn't have to be reading related, it could be any website that you would like to share with others. We're just going to look at this one. This is a collection of different sing-alongs. I truly believe that students learn best. Many of them learn best. I know there are different learning styles, but with music and dance and catchy tunes, especially if they are easy lyrics, easy tune, they just respond very well to it. So I don't think we're going to try a web tour because it didn't work for us when we tested it. So I love this particular one that is featured, the Outdoor Opposites. So if we can perhaps just give it a shot for, again, 30 seconds. And after that, I will ask you to perhaps, maybe you can, if you have time, just go to that website that you have in mind and then copy and paste the link to the chat to share with others. And if you would like to speak about it or type a little bit about it, give us some information about the website. We would appreciate it. Okay, so again, the timer is on already. Okay, so I will stop talking for a moment and see if you guys are comfortable sharing a favorite link. I know that there has been some conversation here in the chat. I apologize if I wasn't following everything. I was trying to stay focused. But if we could teach your monster to read. Interesting. I haven't heard of that one, so I appreciate it. Okay. Anything else? Any other website? Again, it's as I said, it's okay if you are too tired to think about website at this time. I realize it's getting late. Okay, maybe if you think about it, Mali will keep track and will grab the links and add them to the resources page. Okay, so we're going to move on to a little bit on science. I realize that I know that it was quite challenging for me to find websites that would be appropriate for young learners. Because most of the websites, yes, they're great for research, but when you want your students to either have a better understanding of science concepts, you can either pay for a subscription to, let's say, BrainPop Junior, which is not inexpensive. It is, you can buy per class or for the whole school, or you can certainly go to the library, and then there's nothing wrong with using the books. But again, what about the students who are struggling readers and they just simply, let's say you have research on animals, and how are you going to find content that is appropriate for those students? So this particular one is I always look at reputable. So it's reputable, it's interactive. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of parts of that resource. So every grade pretty much in science, you talk about environment, about protecting our environment. So this one, if you look at Interactive House, again, great, done either with partners if you have a couple of stations, or you can also display on a big screen and kind of guide the students, take them through, and kind of click the button, so invite one of the students to do that. So that's the energy component. Then great, so don't forget to play it full screen when you check it out. It just makes it a much richer experience. And you've got this one is really great. Students are often, and this is great for those inquiry questions when they're asking, oh, how come we have day and night? And sometimes they're asking, well, how come, especially if when they go on vacation, I went on vacation, there was a different time, and again, trying to explain how the Earth moves and how different parts of the globe have day and night. So at the bottom, you've got the change time, so you can interact there, and again, you're taken through different screens, and it just, in a very simple language, explains the concept of day and night. This one is also interactive. You basically change the sunrise and the sunset, and again on different dates. So again, when you're talking about the days getting longer, and again, why is it getting longer? So there's inquiry type questions. This is something that I strongly recommend to have a look at, and just depending on what either you just get a question, or you are talking about, as I said, you're talking about environment, and you want to expose your students to something that is at their level. Some of you are probably familiar with PebbleGo. Most public libraries have subscription, and quite often you are prompted to enter your library card number, and it's okay. I think most of you have library card, so if you are using it with the whole class, that's fine. But as I said, sometimes you just send the students to do research, and that is tricky because students have to be able to, let's say in grade 2, read books, and they are at different reading levels. So this one again is, as you can see when you go to home page, it's divided into animals and science, and when you click on animals, then you've got different options and more options here, and then again you click the next option, and I apologize, my phone is ringing again. You've got even more options, so you narrow down the search, and more still. So once you select, you can see the speaker on the left, and then different tabs, and then there is a short video that it's very short. It's usually under a minute, but it does show the animal in its natural habitat. So the link that I'm providing you with, this particular one doesn't prompt for a library card. Just looking at the time, it's 8:50, so I will skip usually Mali and I would ask you to have a look at it, but if you're saying that your students need this particular resource for research, then take a note of this particular one and bookmark it on your machine and just use it as needed. So I'll move on to this one. Again, I think most teachers are looking for those authentic learning opportunities. And I'm one of the lucky people who visited San Diego Zoo, but many students not only will never visit San Diego Zoo, will never visit any zoo unless you organize a trip. So again, we live in a world where we have opportunities to visit at least some of the animals. So this particular link will take you to videos, and those videos are great. However, even better are those live webcams, and some of them are better than others. This is an opportunity, again, if you know San Diego is it's exactly 3 hours in terms of time. So when we show this, especially in the winter, when we show this in the morning, and the students looked and say, "Oh, how come it's dark there?" So this was the "I wonder" question. And then the teachers were discussing, this is when you go back to that Children's University of Manchester and say, okay, so this is what happens, different parts have day and night, and that's how it works, and that's why we already have a daylight and they still have night. So a really funny one is the ape webcam. So that's the one that I recommend checking out, but there's other ones that you may want to have a look at. I'll just move on to, so this one was actually on in our kindergarten classes most of the winter. I have checked it out. It is Grouse Mountain, but it didn't work for me. It worked for me when I was preparing for this session, but the last couple of days, so it said it will be available until mid-April. I'm just wondering if perhaps it's empty now. Maybe the bears just woke up and there is nothing to watch, so this doesn't work. But I am going to pull out. I have found a really nice couple of ones, so I'm going to just paste that for you to have a look. This one is the All About Birds webcam. And you may want to check that out. And then there is another one. Hang on a second. It's Ontario Feeder Watch. That's another one that I will recommend. This actually, I was watching it for a moment. It was actually an owl, and at some point, another owl brought a little bunny. So I think, well, I'm glad that the students actually are not watching this, because the bunny was so cute, and it's just Mother Nature, and this is how it works. But it was quite heartbreaking when I saw the little bunny delivered there. And then, yeah. So what I'm suggesting, I think we have a couple of minutes. So click one of them and just have a look. The one maybe all about birds or Ontario Feeder. Just choose one of those webcams and just have a look. It's just fascinating to watch, and again, get those students to look at it and ask those "I wonder" questions. What are you wondering about? Those inquiry that is developing the curiosity that all children have. So let's just take maybe 30 seconds, because I know we are getting to the end, and I just have a couple more maybe resources to highlight. So let's just take 30 seconds. Okay, and we are getting to the end, and I am actually quite surprised that I was able to go through, I think, all of my slides, because I only have 2 or 3 left. This is the section that I called indoor recess activities, and it could be indoor recess, it could be a DPA, which you are mandated to have every day. So this particular link to slower yoga, it is for young students. There's another one that is for little older ones, so you can explore, and on the right you can see how long, so the time. So if you have the one for 15 minutes, you know, that could be many of our noon-hour supervisors are actually playing that the first 15 minutes, and then the students have free time and they have quiet activities. So so this one, and then I will point you to the next one. This one is, again, different collections. So the bottom one, if you're teaching a little bit older students, it's the one at the bottom, and then there is a whole movie specials. Students really enjoy these ones. So you don't have to, if you are not phys ed major, and sometimes you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do with these students? They really, really love these activities. So perhaps I will give you a minute, I know it's 8:56 my time, to this one. And then the last one is Go Noodle. Again, many of you probably use it, but if you don't use it, I highly recommend giving it a shot. It is one of the favorite ones in our school. So if you could check one of them out, Mali will just, she has pasted them in the chat. Okay, so these were the online gems that I have selected for you. I hope that, as I said, you found at least one idea that you think, yes, I think it's going to work in my class or with my students, if you're not a classroom teacher. A little bit disappointing probably for if you're a French teacher. I'm sorry, it's always challenging to find something French. Yes, if you have access to Tumble Books, there is a French section there. But other than that, so I apologize if I haven't really met your expectations. So use something or share something with a colleague that wasn't able to attend, or perhaps direct them to OTF webinars page. Maybe they would like to watch the recording. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll turn it over to Mali.
Thanks, Danuta. That was absolutely amazing. It's people sharing resources like this that make me want to go back and play with little ones again. And I really thank all the participants who shared their knowledge as well to add to the resources. You'll be getting you'll be getting an email tomorrow with the wealth of resources that Danuta shared and a link to the recording if you were a little bit later coming in. And yeah, thanks again for everything, Danuta. And thanks for everyone coming. There are just a couple things to finish up. When you log out of the session, you'll be directed to a survey that we would appreciate you completing for a couple of reasons. One is to give some feedback to OTF Connects and to Danuta, and also to the Ministry of Education who's funded the OTF Connects program, so that they know how effective and amazing the webinars are and how they can enhance your teaching practice. So you can get to the link in 3 ways. You can click on the link that's on the slide, the orange link, or you will be directed right to the feedback survey when you log out of the session. The other way is in the resources. When you get that, you can also complete the feedback link there, but you really only have 48 hours to do that, and once you've completed the feedback survey, you get a link to a certificate of completion. So I'm just going to put this in the chat box as well, so you can get to it there. There we go. And also, there are many sessions coming up for OTF Connects, and these go to the middle. They go all the way to the end of May, and these are the next few that are coming up, and you can always go to the OTF Connects website to register for some other webinars, and we'd love to see you back again. So again, thanks to Nuda and for sharing, and everyone for participating tonight. It was an amazing session, and thanks for sharing everything. I'm just going to stop the recording.